I would like to introduce New Guinea and local neurological diseases in New Guinea. New Guinea is divided into two areas, one Papua New Guinea and another Irian Jaya in Indonesia. Today's lessons, we want to talk about the neurological disease in Irian Jaya in Indonesia. Now, in Irian Jaya is called Papua in Indonesia, and New Guinea is highly developed early civilizations, but now underdeveloped modern civilization. Some indigenous people with primitive lifestyle. Development of civilization of human beings began on discovery of agriculture and domestication, as you know. There are known about 8 or 9 areas where people discovered agriculture independently. As you know, in Tigris-Euphrates areas and Sahel in Africa, and in China, and in North America, and South America, and also New Guinea. About 1,000 years before, New Guinean people discovered agricultural method, very highly civilized in this era. Agricultural products native to New Guinea before about 30 centuries BC. Agricultural products consist of sugar cane, a kind of taro imo, and breadfruit. Lifestyle on Stone Age, at least a part, are sustained until near recent years in New Guinea. This is our ancestors. There are several stories in our ancestors about 20,000 years before. One of it is this. Brian Sykes tells the story of our ancestors. This heroine is Ursula. Brian Sykes wrote, fortunately, Ursula survived. When she was 12 years old, her mother died at the age of 29. Her mother had lost teeth and had suffered from bone fracture by falling. In this era, age of 29 is old people. 6 weeks after her bone fracture, she died of general bacteremia from bone injury infection. Death of her mother at compatible old age, different now. At the time, less influenced on Ursula's life. Next spring, Ursula became a mother at the age of 15. She suckled her baby as her mother had to do to her, and gathered foods carrying her baby on her back in the forest every day. 4 years later, she had one more baby. Her two daughters also fortunately survived. Ursula lived long as she could meet her grandchildren and died at great old age of 37. In this era, age 37 is great old age. This table shows estimating average lifespan of mankind. As you know, Neanderthal man, average lifespan about 10 years. AD 1 year, some lifespan 20 years. AD 1070s, some 20 years. By introduction of vaccination by Jenners, average lifespan doubled in European countries. AD 1080, some average lifespan 37s. Beginning of 20th centuries in Japan, average lifespan 43. However, now, average lifespan over 80 years old. During these 50 years, average lifespan in Japan elongated to 40 to 80. In 1999, when we first entered Irian Jaya in the indigenous village, we were attacked by warriors like this. However, this is not true war, but war ceremony to welcome us. These indigenous people had technology making mummy. This is the taro farm. This is a taro. Lifestyle is very indigenous, very primitive. And this is taro. Indigenous people in this area, male and female, separately lived. This is the female house with children. They cooked pig, roasted on hot pebbles. We must eat rare pig meat. As you know, rare pig meat is very dangerous for parasites, such as cysticercosis. In this area, there are some patients with brain cysticercosis manifesting epilepsy epilepsy means 転換発作。These indigenous people like to smoke, even in female. And another people living in the house on the tree, like this. This is the lifestyle of primitive people in Irian Jaya, in the forest. There are some diseases specific to these areas. These patients showed large leg. This is filariasis. In Japanese, 臓皮病 by filaria infections. Filaria infections occurred not only leg, but also arm. Occlusion of lymph flow. This is the umbilical herniations, hernia. And this is the tuberculosis, lymph node swelling, like this. As last time, I explained the concept of malady through English terms, differentiated: disease, illness, sickness. In Indonesia, sakit. As I told, disease is a concept of causative agent, or one of scientific mechanisms of cause and effect. However, illness is how a person experiences a disease state and is mingled with cultural overtones and social norms. And the third concept of sakit, sickness, is a social concept as something wrong, not normal, abnormal, anything unusual. And this is one young male patient. We doctor can diagnose at a glance by specific skin lesions, like this. These patients suffered from lepra, 雷病. Patients with lepra show the radial nerve palsy, 頭骨神経麻痺, and drop hand, cannot extend the hand. Diagnosis of the patient, diagnosis of, from the standpoint of disease by modern medicine, leprosy to be treated. However, impression of illness by patients and relatives be possessed by an evil spirit. Illness としては、行いが悪いからだと、悪魔に呪われたというふうに見られています。An impression of sickness by community people, disobedience to his parents, and violent behavior. 両親の言うことを聞かずに乱暴なことをしているからこういう病気になるんだというふうに理解されているようです。 This is the New Guinean map. Gajusek, Dr. Gajusek, he is novelist, reported that in these areas, the patients with neurological disease, such as Parkinson's disease, and ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Maybe you don't know the Parkinson's disease or ALS, but later I would like to explain. This neurological disease is very rare disease. However, incidence of ALS and Parkinson's disease is highly incident in this area in Irian Jaya. The cause are known. This is a report of Gajusek, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. 筋萎縮性側索硬化症という神経難病なんです。And Parkinsonian syndromes in high incidence among the Awu and Jakai people of West New Guinea. Do you know Parkinson's disease? Parkinson's disease is not so rare in Japan or in Indonesia, in Jakarta. Or, do you know the name of Parkinson's disease? Parkinson's disease is characterized by hand tremor and rigidity, 硬くなること。and bradykinesia, 動きが鈍くなること。and postural impairment, バランスが悪くなること。This is the four characteristics of Parkinson's disease. This is a description by Gowers. This is the characteristic features: anterior bending, and tremor, and postural impairment. This is my patient with Parkinson's disease. And Parkinson's disease, historically speaking, Adolf Hitler in Germany, and Muhammad Ali, famous boxer in USA, and Deng Xiaoping, Chinese leader, and Father John Paul II suffered from Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is not so rare disease. On the other hand, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, called ALS, is very rare disease. This is first described by Martin Charcot in 1874 and called Charcot disease also. Neurological disease, a representative neurological disease is Alzheimer's disease, as you know. You know Alzheimer's disease, name of Alzheimer's disease. Indonesian students, do you know name of Alzheimer's disease? Memory loss, characterized memory loss and dementia. Don't you know? Okay. And Alzheimer's, the prevalence of Alzheimer's disease, over 1,000 by 100,000 populations. Not so, very high incident in Japan. And second, Parkinson's disease prevalence about 100 by 100,000 populations. On the contrary, ALS is only 5, prevalence is only 5 by 100,000. Very, very rare disease, but very, very difficult to treat disease. ALS, characterized by progressive muscle atrophy and weakness, begins from hand intrinsic muscle, followed by forelimbs, neck muscles, tongue, and swallowing and respiratory muscles. 指先の細かい筋肉から始まって全身の筋肉が動かなくなり、しかも飲み込むことができずに呼吸も難しいと、そういう病気です。Death 3 to 5 years later from the onset, typically, if without mechanical ventilation. もしも人工呼吸器を使わないと発症後3年から5年で亡くなってしまう病気です。Consciousness, mental activities, and sensory system are intact. 意識、知的機能、知覚は正常。Extraocular movement remains intact until latest stage, which is one and only communicable method between patients and others, including family or medical staff. 目の動きだけは最後まで残るので、目の動きによって会話をすることが可能です。Until now, cause unknown. Until now, no sure cure. Only symptomatic treatment at the latest stage of life by mechanical ventilation. This very difficult to treat, very number of articles, papers on ALS in recent decades, about 10,000 articles in the medical journals. A vast number of investigations on ALS during 30 decades from now in the world have raised more questions than they answered. Disease of versions of heaven and a disparate idea at the back of patient's mind. Perfect crime of the world of the disease. 病気の中の完全犯罪と言われている病気です。まだ何の手がかりもつかめない。Which medical staff in charge have sometimes called both patients and medical staff being in the depths of despair. そういう病気がここで多いというわけですね。Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, a long and difficult name to pronounce, and its curious characteristic features to understand for the average lay person. I would like to explain as an example of a story of Lou Gehrig.この病気はなかなか分かりにくい病気なので、一人のこの病気にかかった有名な人を通じて説明していきたいと思います。Do you know Lou Gehrig? Baseball man in USA. Lou Gehrig was born in 1993. The pride of the New York Yankees. Played 2,310 consecutive games in 60 years and called Iron Horse of Baseball. Lifetime batting average .3 341. Very high average. Like Ichiro, baseball man in Japan, in Mariners now. Hit 493 home runs. Got Triple Crown in 1934. Very famous baseball player in New York Yankees in USA. However, in 1939, batting average down to 0.1 and voluntarily benched himself. His wife arranged for Lou to go to Mayo Clinic. General physicians did not find some abnormality of Lou Gehrig. His decrease in batting average may be due to aging for baseball players. However, one neurologist found one abnormal findings in his hand. You can see the intrinsic muscle atrophy. Please compare yourself hand. Interossei muscle is atrophic. Like this. Lou Gehrig was diagnosed as ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and retired. This is a photo of retirement ceremony. Right side man is Babe Ruth, best rival of Lou Gehrig. You can compare the bodies. He is fat, obese, but he is lean. After his retirement, there was steady, progressive weakness of his limbs, and he had gradual increasing difficulty with respiration and swallowing. "25 months later of retirement, he died at the age of 38 in 1941. Do you know 1941? When the Japanese Navy had attacked to Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. 日本が真珠湾攻撃を始めた年ですね。Since death of Lou, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis (ALS) has become known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Most of patients with ALS in United States were encouraged by the publication of Lou's disease on the newspaper, in which they knew even the best hero Lou iron horse could be suffered from ALS. ALS would not be a disease of vengeance of heaven or disease of perfect crime, but a disease which would be solved in the future. Other than Lou Gehrig, Dmitry Shostakovich, Russian pianist, have suffered from ALS, and Mao Zedong, Mo Tacto, in Chinese revolutionist, might be suffered from ALS. But in Mao Zedong, there is no publication of medical documents and only speculations. And as you know, Stephen William Hawking, physicist in Cambridge University, also suffered from ALS. This is the cross-sectional spinal cord of a patient with ALS. You cannot find any abnormality in this slide, but you can compare the normal spinal cord of normal persons. You can show the spinal cord cell, neuron cell is atrophic in the spinal cord of patients with ALS, normal and ALS. This comparison is very clear. The patients with ALS, there are patients with ALS in Japan. This is a Japanese patient with ALS. He cannot move his hand or leg. He only communicates by extraocular movement, signal of extraocular movement, 眼球運動. Signal of ocular movement are sent to computers, and he can write the letter by extraocular movement. This is another patient with ALS. And you can see the thenar muscle atrophy and the hypothenar and the interossei muscle atrophy. Very rare disease, but there are some patients in Japan. This difficult to treat disease, ALS, is reported to be high incidence in coastal area in Irian Jaya. There are known to be three high incident areas in this disease. First, Kii in Japan, and Guam Island. But in Guam Island, incidence of ALS is decreased now. However, incidence of ALS is still high in West Papua from 1980. What is the cause of this difficult disease? And we take MOU between Università Cenderawasih, Papua, Indonesia, and our center and Graduate School of Asian African Area Studies, Kyoto University. This is the MOU conclusion between Cenderawasih University and Kyoto University. This is the director of center, and this is the director of ASAPAS. And this is the director of Cenderawasih University, vice directors. We discussed about the medical survey for neurological diseases in Papua with Cenderawasih University staff and Jayapura General Hospital staff in Jayapura. This is the Cenderawasih University. From 2000, we visited to coastal area in Papua. In Papua, you can show long and bending rivers in the coastal area and a very rich forest. We used a speedboat in the large river, and sometimes crocodile appears. Sunset in New Guinea is very beautiful. And we sometimes used the water planes to go to coastal areas. And sometimes we used the long boat with engine, and sometimes boat by oar. What do you think this is? Do you know this? Do you know it? 知ってますか? Do you know? 知ってる? So, yes, Aunt Hill. There are many Aunt Hills in Irian Jaya, like this. アリ塚ですね. And we enter the local villages and very welcomed. Young people ride like this. A typical patient with ALS. A typical ALS is characterized by 4 limbs weakness and upper and lower motor neuron signs. This is a very specific findings. And bulbar symptoms. Bulbar symptoms means difficult to swallow, difficult to respirate. This called bulbar signs. You can see the 43 years old female in village called Ogoto. 2 years before, her weakness is progressive gradually, and she is supported by the family in every life. You can see the thenar muscle atrophy and hypothenar muscle atrophy, and in intrinsic muscle also. This young male, you can see the atrophy of arm muscle and tenar muscle atrophies and hypotenar muscle atrophies. This 55 years male, his cousin is also suspected with ALS. You can see the hand muscle atrophies. This person also diagnosed as ALS. You can see the suprascapular muscle atrophies and infrascapular muscle atrophies. Some patients has spinal deformities. This is not show some symptoms, no pains, but only deformities. This also. Other than ALS, Parkinsonian syndrome with cognitive impairment. There are some patients with Parkinsonian syndrome with cognitive impairment, characterized by bradykinesia throughout, rigidity, katai, and hand tremor, and cognitive impairment. Cognitive impairment means memory disturbance. This female patient has Parkinsonian syndrome and cognitive impairment. You can see the very mild but tenar muscle atrophies. This female also characterized by the Parkinsonian syndrome with tremors. But we have drug effective to Parkinsonian syndrome, and we gave her the Parkinsonian drug, and for tremor and bradykinesia is effective. Very hot in this area, very hot regions, and palm juice is very delicious for us, very dehydrated, long walking, and dehydrated our members. We were living in the village leader's house. And the small catfish and the potatoes are best dishes for us. We cannot treat the patients with ALS. We only treat the Parkinsonian syndrome. But all villagers very welcome to us. Contact of ALS, patients with ALS by Japanese medical doctor may be able to heal some part in the patients with ALS. High prevalence of lesion of ALS and Parkinsonism is key in Japan and Guam and West Papua. But as I told, in Guam, since 1990, prevalence of ALS dramatically decreased. A cause unknown. But West Papua, is still high, around 20 times in general prevalence. Disease, illness, and sickness are based not only on biology, but on ecology and culture. A specific incidence of ALS in key in Japan and Guam and Papua among the world is very important, although the cause has been unknown. Nature might have known the way to treat ALS, which we have never known now. However, we might know in the future in West Papua. There are some speculating theories of cause of ALS. First, water, minerals, or some toxins, or genetic, or some unknown environmental reasons. But they are not decided in now. And hospital medicine is very important, of course. However, this type of field medicine is very important to find the cause of disease. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comment? 何か質問がありますか？ないようならもう早く終えていいですか？ないようでしたら早く終えてもいいですか？ Are there any questions? Okay, we would like to close this lecture. Thank you very much. じゃあ今日は早めですけどこれで終わりますので。評価とするんですか？単位出席。そうですか。消血したいですね。マラリアはもうもちろん治療という予防策をかなりネットとかですね、それから蚊よけのクリームとか。
ちょっと今取り切れなかったんでパワーフォアップとかってされる予定とかあるんですか？
これね、医学がね、個人のね、写真が入ってるでしょ。だからこれはね、見せることはできるけど、写真はちょっとまずいですね。 切見たかったプリントした形では出さないようにしてるんです。
逆にとかでその写真を抜いてしまえば大丈夫でしょうか。
写真抜けばいいですけど、はい、前回のも人の写真が出てるのはできるだけ避けて、前回のは比較的セオリーだったからいいんですけど、この場合はずっともうケースレポート、はい、すみませんけど、どうぞ。
右側からの NGO とかも入ってるっていうのを聞いたことがあるんですけれど、
パプアの方はね、意外とNGO 入ってる。こちらは